The Middle Ages, 1230. In a secluded cell of a monastery in Bohemia, that is, in the Czech Republic, a monk whose terrible sins were kept secret asks the senior monks to spare his life. This monk belonged to the Benedictine order, who were called the Black Monks. They wore black clothes, took a vow of celibacy and complete obedience, subjected themselves to severe physical tests, self-flagellation, and starvation. However, there were also weak-willed people among them who succumbed to various temptations. Their mistakes were severely punished, ranging from excommunication to solitary confinement. An even more terrible fate awaits the sinful monk. He must be walled up alive in one of the monastery walls. The senior monks were adamant in their decision. Suddenly, divine inspiration descends upon the sinner. He promises to write the largest book of his time, which will contain the Bible and all the knowledge available to mankind. Such a book will glorify the Benedictine monastery for all time. The monk also promised to complete such a huge work in just one night. He begged the senior monks for a long time until they finally agreed to give him one last chance for salvation. If he does not fulfill his promise by the morning, the execution will inevitably take place. The sinful monk began to work. He wrote the book until he was completely exhausted. When midnight struck, the monk realized that he would not be able to fulfill his promise, and he decided to make a terrible pact. He asked for help from the fallen angel, Satan. Satan responded to the call and helped the monk write the most terrible, mysterious, and most attractive book in the world. So says the legend. But what is this mysterious book? The Codex Gigas is a long manuscript of the 13th century from Bohemia, one of the historical lands of the Czech Republic. A manuscript known for its size and its striking full-page depiction of the devil. Only 2 people can lift this book, made from 160 skins. Legend has it that the Codex Gigas was written by a monk who, after being sentenced to death by being walled up alive, made a deal with the devil. With the help of the devil, the monk wrote the book in one night, with the devil writing a self-portrait. Oddly enough, the handwriting in the book is remarkably clear and uniform, as if it had actually been written in a short period of time. However, scholars believe that such a work would have taken from 5 to 30 years if written without interruption. This book is considered the most controversial, strange, and possessing a supernatural attraction. Many great people of this world tried to get hold of it, but it brought only misfortune to everyone. The book became an object of hunting for many alchemists and magicians. People killed, sold souls, and went to execution for it. Everyone who has ever seen it testifies to the hidden power emanating from the book. It has some kind of devilish nature, perhaps because the devil himself is depicted on one of the pages. This medieval manuscript is rightfully considered the 8th wonder of the world. It contains the Old and New Testaments, medical recipes, magic spells, 14 Latin texts, the etymology of Isidore of Seville, the Bohemian Chronicle of the medieval chronicler Cosmas of Prague, the Jewish War of Josephus Flavius, a calendar of church holidays, and a list of the names of the monastery monks. The combination of texts in the book is so unique that you will not find such a book anywhere else. The height of the book is 90 centimeters. Weight, 74 kilograms. Width, 49 centimeters. Thickness, 22 centimeters. Initially, the book had 640 pages. Now it has 624 pages. Many medieval books used a material similar to parchment. It was made from animal skins. It is said that 160 donkey skins were used to create the Devil's Bible. The Codex Gigas is the only book in the world that contains sacred spells to exorcise the devil alongside the Old and New Testaments. For many centuries, scientists and specialists have asked themselves the same questions. For what purpose was such a book created, and who created it? Was it one person or a group of people? The exact date of the manuscript's creation is unknown. Only the approximate date of completion of the book is known, 1230 in medieval Bohemia. The birthplace of the book is the Czech monastery of the Benedictine order in the city of Podlaží. Codex Gigas survived many centuries, many historical events and catastrophes, and practically came out dry from all the troubles. But many people who owned it were not so lucky. Perhaps the manuscript absorbed the character of the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, which were filled with terrible events, constant wars, epidemics, continuous superstitions. At the end of the 13th century, everyone already knew the legend of a sinful monk who sold his soul to write the Devil's Bible. Thanks to the book, the Benedictine monastery really became famous. However, it was threatened by a financial crisis. In order to avoid complete ruin, the abbot of the monastery decided to sell the Codex Gigas to another monastery. Even at that time, it was believed that possession of such a great book meant high authority and respect. And so the Devil's Bible passed into the possession of the order of white monks who wore white robes. Unlike the Benedictines who wore black clothes, the book was transported to the town of Sedlec, which is located near Prague. The white monks placed the honorable book in an equally honorable place next to the cemetery, which was consecrated with earth brought from Golgotha itself. Later, the order of white monks also suffered ruin. The bishop ordered the monks to return the Codex Gigas to the black monks. After this incident, the monastery was struck by a deadly epidemic, the plague. The Black Death took the lives of tens of thousands of people. The cemetery was overflowing with the bodies of the unfortunate. By the end of the pandemic, about 40,000 corpses turned these places into catacombs. Today, the Sedlec Monastery is a rather creepy museum, an ossuary. This is one of the sinister chapters in the history of the Devil's Bible. In the 16th century, the Codex Gigas served as a kind of album. Many churchmen from Prague, secular people, visited the Benedictine monastery of Brumov to study the book. One of them was Christopher Schlichting, a follower of the famous mystic, alchemist, and physician Paracelsus. In 1565, Crown Prince Rudolf II received a prophecy from Nostradamus, which predicted the death of his father. Prince Rudolf was destined to become the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, King of Hungary, the Czech Republic, and the German King. After this prediction, Rudolf developed a lifelong passion for the occult. He longed to get his hands on the Codex Gigas. With the help of various favors and honors shown to the Benedictine monastery, the prince won the favor of the abbot of the monastery, who presented him with the book as a gift. Emperor Rudolf completely lost himself in the study of the Devil's Bible. It seemed that a great acquisition had been made for such a great ruler. However, fortune soon turned against the emperor. He became withdrawn, absent-minded, prone to paranoia, locked himself in his castle like an unsociable hermit. Unable to govern his state, Rudolf soon lost the support of his subjects. He waged a civil war with his brother Matthias. In 1611, the nobility forced him to abdicate the Czech throne, which was taken by his brother. The emperor died alone, leaving no heirs. Rudolf's kingdom ended up in the hands of his enemies. In 1648, Swedish troops captured Prague. The emperor's castle was plundered, including the royal library. The soldiers took the library's most outstanding book, the Codex Gigas, out of the country. Having plundered Emperor Rudolf's castle, the Swedish officers decided to give the Codex Gigas to their unusual monarch, Christina, the only female king in Europe. Christina's father, Gustav II, treated his daughter as if she were his son. He raised, educated, and dressed her like a boy. Upon ascending the throne, Christina swears an oath not on behalf of the queen, but on behalf of the king. Having received an unusual book as a gift from her warriors, Christina ordered it to be placed in the library in the castle. In the official list, the codex is listed first of all the valuable manuscripts. However, Christina was not destined to keep it for long. Less than 10 years later, in 1654, Christina abdicated the throne. She converted to Catholicism and left for Rome. Having collected her most valuable things for the journey, the queen did not take the Codex Gigas with her, and the Devil's Bible remained in Stockholm. At the end of the 16th century, in 1697, the King of Sweden, Charles XI, died in the royal castle in Stockholm. Suddenly, a fire breaks out in the castle. The royal family was forced to leave their abode. The servants save everything that can be saved from the fire. One of the servants threw the Codex Gigas out of the castle window. Thus, the strange, mysterious book was saved from the fire. Did this book really bring misfortune to its owners? Or did the natural, predestined course of events pass by in parallel with the procession of the Codex Gigas? Perhaps it is all just a coincidence, and perhaps not. Almost inhuman labor, the Codex Gigas was nevertheless created by one simple man. The handwriting in which the entire book is written is very uniform. The author could have lost his sight, suffered from illnesses, and grown old while writing the book, but scientists have not found any obvious errors in the Codex. It is simply impossible to believe in such a colossal work, especially after seeing it with your own eyes. Perhaps this is why the well-known legend was born about the condemned monk who sold his soul to the devil. Evidence that this book was written by one person was found by scientists and specialists during an investigation, which was carried out using text analysis, handwriting, and paper and ink samples. In the Middle Ages, monks made their own ink. There were two types of ink, made of metal and ground-up insect hives. If the Codex Gigas was written by one person, then the ink had to be of only one type. Scientists have proven that the book used ink prepared only from insect hives, which means that there was only one author. The peculiarities of the calligraphic handwriting also prove the correctness of this hypothesis. It can be assumed that, working non-stop around the clock, a monk scribe could cope with such a gigantic creation in 20 to 30 years, and certainly not in one night. The fact that a monk convicted of sins worked on the Codex can be explained by the fact that in medieval monasteries, rewriting sacred books was a common form of punishment. At that time, it was believed that a person could atone for his sins by rewriting sacred texts. It is possible that the scribe created instructions for his own salvation, since the content of the book emphasizes caring for the body and mind, and protecting the immortal soul. Some features of the drawings in the Codex Gigas indicate that its author was a good artist, but far from a professional. He simply wanted to make his work larger, thicker than had been done before. Perhaps he was a talented self-taught. Usually, professional monk scribes worked in huge rooms called scriptoria. The monks had their own techniques and methods. If you take a medieval manuscript and compare it with the Codex Gigas, the difference is immediately visible. The Codex looks old-fashioned and rather unprofessional. However, such an amateur and a beginner raised a real furor around his work. After all, creating a full-length drawing of the devil was a very daring and dangerous act. In the harsh Middle Ages, people believed that those who did or said something different from others were under the power of evil spirits. It was the image of the evil spirit on page 290 of the Codex Gigas that brought the manuscript a bad reputation. No joke, no other Bible has such a huge drawing, a real embodiment of evil. Half man, half monster with a forked red tongue and raised clawed hands. The devil wears an ermine skin, which symbolizes supreme power. Perhaps this is what Satan from the legend looked like. However, the artist depicted the monster as if he was locked in the walls of his own evil. The author deprived him of his usual freedom, which no one had done before. The nature of the devil's image can tell a lot about the time in which the author lived, about his psychology, about his education. In the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, people were not sure of anything. Their lives were constantly exposed to various threats, and they believed that threats came only from the devil. Therefore, the devil worried their minds more than turning to God. People called the Codex Gigas the Devil's Bible for a reason. In addition to the image of the evil one, the book contains a group of witchcraft spells and also describes the ritual of exorcism. The attacking evil one was the greatest fear of a medieval person, attacking and penetrating into the human essence. To cope with such a misfortune, it was necessary to conduct a terrible and frightening ritual of exorcism, where the priest and the victim fought for the soul of the possessed. There are also interesting moments in which particularly superstitious individuals see a sign of possession by evil. Firstly, immediately after the image of the devil, 8 pages were torn out. It is not known what was written on the missing pages, but this only fueled the interest of the superstitious public. Secondly, after the fire of 1697, in which the Codex Gigas almost perished, strange shadows appeared on some of its pages. Moreover, these shadows appeared precisely on those pages that are adjacent to the image of the devil. And it is the page with the famous drawing that seems darker than all the other pages. But these shadows can also be explained. They could have appeared on the pages due to ultraviolet radiation, to which the material of the book, leather, was constantly exposed, practically tanning it. For centuries, people have paid attention, first of all, to the drawing of the devil, which testifies to the irrepressible human interest in relation to the evil one. The Codex Gigas is a unique creation, the largest medieval book, completed in a few decades by one person. This man managed to glorify his creation for centuries, but he modestly left his personality in the shadows. No one knows who this man was. However, there is a version that the book was written by a hermit monk named Hermann the Hermit, as evidenced by the entry in the list of names in the book, Hermanus Monachus Inclusus. It is possible that the legend of the sinful monk was based on an incorrect interpretation of the Latin word found in the Codex Gigas, inclusus, which means imprisonment. For many years, the meaning of this word was regarded as a terrible punishment, i.e., walling up alive, but the word itself is much closer in meaning to the word recluse. So, the terrible legend that still excites the fears of superstitious people can be refuted and proven to be just a legend. Most likely, the scribe was a hermit monk who voluntarily secluded himself in his cell, thus leaving the outside world and its temptations. For this monk, the Codex Gigas could have been a search for insight, as well as the work of his entire life. It was not inspired by evil, but by divine blessing. It gave people hope for salvation, gave them the opportunity to choose, showed this choice in the form of drawings located opposite each other, a drawing of the devil and a drawing of the kingdom of heaven. Good and evil are measured against eternity on the pages of the Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas is currently located in Stockholm within the walls of the Swedish Royal Library. In 2007, the Codex Gigas was exhibited for the first time in its homeland in the Czech Republic, in the city of Prague. Despite the revealed mysteries, the huge manuscript will continue to arouse people's interest, will evoke in their minds images of a strange hermit monk creating a unique creation of his tireless hands. In one thing, the legend turned out to be right. The monk really did risk creating a book that glorified not only certain places, but also certain events that influenced the course of history,